Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler, back today with Johnny from Twitter fame and Spurs Talk Show fame and outside the ground fame. He was everyone's favourite man yesterday. Was it yesterday? No, the day before yesterday. Everyone's coming up to him. Johnny, you're a superstar. Johnny, you're this. Johnny, you're that. It was an interesting day outside the protest. I thought I was going to get in a fight at 1 minute.
Listen, Johnny? All fair in love and war. Look, the thing is, football's a game of opinions. Everyone has them, and that's why we love the game. Back in the day, Sean, like you went down to the pub after the game. Well, if you didn't drink, you just went home and had a go at the wife when you got beat. But other than that, you went down to the pub and you discussed it.
And listen, sometimes if you did win, you'd have a go at your wife as well, but maybe in a different fashion, a different form of fashion.
You disagree or what have you, and then that would be it. Unfortunately, Twitter is a different world. It's a different world. It's a world where people hide behind an anonymous screen. Maybe they don't get out much. I'm not sure, but some of the vitriol and the toxicity, it is quite nasty. But when you get to meet some of these people in real life, they're not as, the written word can be a lot different than the spoken word when they're standing in front of you, right?
Do you know what, Johnny? You know what? It was actually, it was fascinating. Right? So I'm hanging around. I said to you, usually you give me a call about 2 hours before the game.
Yeah.
And say, Sean, where are you, mate? I'm outside the clock. Where are you? I'm like, oh, mate, I'm still stuck in traffic. I'm 20 minutes away, or I'm an hour away, or whatever. And you go, oh, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in, my son. I'll see you afterwards. Yes, the day before yesterday, I got there 5 hours before kickoff. I think I arrived at like 11:45 or something stupid, 12 o'clock, whatever time it was. And I'm like, I'll speak to you, and you say you're 45 minutes away. And I'm like, wow, I'm an hour before even Johnny gets here, and Johnny gets here ridiculously early. So I go inside for the first time. I went inside the shop, the club shop. I bought this little number, right? 130 notes.
Very nice.
It's lovely. I bought it purely because of the neck warmer, right? And but going inside, it was an incredible, eye-opening experience. I've never been inside the shop before. I mean, not since I was about 10 in the old stadium. And back then, it was just like a little kind of cubby hole, right? It was like a kind of boot room sort of size thing. It's probably smaller than the washing machine unit that Tottenham have underneath the changing rooms, but. This one is massive. It's massive, and I go in there, and it's full of tourists, but not just Korean tourists. It's full of German-speaking people. It's full of Eastern European languages that I couldn't put my dial on. It's full of a lot of English people as well. But they had someone walking around with a microphone, a Korean fella, doing the translations. They had the chirpy, the sponsor, what do you call them? The mascots taking pictures with the kids. It was quite an incredible, eye-opening experience, and you just hear the cash register ching, 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 and obviously, I'd never experienced it before, and I see the amount of people with their hands up, like the people operating the till, saying, I'm free to take on another person, and it was mind-blowing to me. I'd never been in there, never experienced it, and then I walk out of there having bought my top, and I see you. And they're just setting up for the protests. And then I bump into a few of the people that I didn't know them by name. And you mentioned like there's some people that have their Twitter handles and the way that they behave. And a few of them came up to me, right? And one or two of them were quite a little bit aggressive. But after we calmed it down, we had a decent chat. A few others that were, when I heard their Twitter handle names, I was like, oh, you guys hate me. And they were like, no, I don't hate you, man. I don't hate you. It's just Twitter. It is what it is. We wish you were part of us rather than against us. And I was like, I'm not against you guys. I've got a different vibe on it. I just wish you would take a little bit more, time in your procedures to take on some obvious truths. And it was a fascinating hour and a half, 2 hours, mate, with you. You were a part of that for the second hour. By the way, but how are you, mate? Anyway, before I get into that,
I'm all right. I mean, listen, look, it's interesting you brought that up because there was someone who went on a YouTube channel day before yesterday and was spitting some quite disgusting accusations about myself. And quite unfounded ones at that. And I found it quite interesting that the people were attacking me, for not being a true Spurs fan, not being part of the protest. All I did was video it and go off to my premium seat.
How dare you?
But in fact, no, I stood there for a bloody hour freezing my nuts off, and then I went into the south stand with everybody else, as you know, and went to see James Black, but James Black wasn't there, so we had another sing-song. But yeah, that
was great as well, man. That was awesome as well. That was fantastic.
That was good fun. Yeah, it was good fun. But what I'm saying,
who that guy was. I don't know who the guy, the drummer and the singer. They weren't James Black. They weren't. I guess they weren't part of the song sheet crew, because I'm guessing those guys have walked away from what we've seen on Twitter recently. But whoever stepped in was, I thought they were phenomenal. I thought it was a fantastic little show.
They did well, considering what was going on. But the comments on this said person's tweet was pretty awful, and they normally turn up after the stream has finished and dump some abuse there, personal abuse. Now, Sean, I don't have a problem with someone disagreeing with anything with me with football. It's part and parcel of what we do, okay? We're just passing an opinion. We're not experts. We're just here to give an opinion, right? And so I can handle that. What I don't think is acceptable is when it becomes personal, over the top abuse. What was handed out. I'm a regular. I'm home and away. I'm Levy genius off the pitch, absolute disaster on the pitch. What was disappointing though, Sean, there was a protest, DB. There was probably a couple of hundred people, maybe a bit more there. What I thought was a little bit surprising was when we were 5-1 down. I lost track of it, actually. Was it 5-1 we were down at one point?
Yeah, 5-1.
5-1. When we were 5-1, there was no Levy out. There was no booing. It was quite surreal, actually, because I've been at games where we've been doing far better and the crowds have turned. And I really expected something to happen. But unfortunately, it didn't.
What did you expect to happen, though, Johnny? Let's let me just quickly say hello to everyone in the chat. So I got straight into the pre-match. Now I didn't even say welcome. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy any festive, whichever festivities you're into this time of year. Then I hope you're bringing the love and the well wishes to. Well, I'm certainly bringing them, and so is Johnny, to you and your family. And thank you for all the well wishes that come our way. Look, it's been the worst year of my life. And I can't wait for it to be over. And I hope that next year will bring some clarity and some peace in that regard with my dad's health and with my mum's health and with obviously what's going on with shenanigans. And I'm guessing Johnny's. Well, Johnny, how was your year generally, mate? Have you had a good year or a bad year? What's your take on the year?
Think it's mixed. I mean, if we're looking at football,
yeah.
It's been an up and down year. It's not been an easy year, but in comparison to you, Sean, it's been a cakewalk. Anyone now who's like having a little dig at Sean over some of the things that he might have said, listen, I dare you to be in the position that he's been in over the last year, and not fight your corner a bit more, maybe a little bit more aggressively than he normally would. On certain things, and so give him a bit of leeway, please. I'm fine with it. I mean, I probably meant every word, just didn't. Just not usually the sort of guy that. Oh, you just normally put it differently. Yeah, you normally just put it differently. I would say is the normal. Yeah, look, it is what it is. For what it's worth, my man. What I found absolutely phenomenal, and like I say, guys, Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas to Spurs GCTV. Member for 14 months. Thank you for the ongoing support, my man. Even though I haven't, for 6 months of that, I haven't even put out any content. So I very much appreciate your membership and your support, and to everyone else as well. Absolutely sensational from you guys. I love you all, and I wish you all the very best for 2025. And to you, Matt, as well, mate. Merry Christmas. What I found fascinating, Johnny, when I met some of these guys outside the stadium, as you were there to see it, right? There was some guys, and I was like, when I heard their Twitter handle names and stuff, I was like, you obviously you got a problem with me. Probably we're gonna have an argument. And
it didn't turn out that way. What I actually heard, if I'm entirely honest, was some of them. I won't mention who they were or whatever, but some of them were saying, "We don't hate you, Sean. Actually, we want you to join us. We need someone who can kind of win that middle of the road and be over there." And I was like, well, I can't really get on board anything when it's not when the argument that's put forward is so, in my opinion, it's thin. And I think that there's a lot of, I've said it 1,000 times in my videos. I feel like if there was a meeting of minds, like a kind of an acknowledgement that whilst Daniel Levy is responsible for a lot of the problems at Tottenham, of course he is. Like, you could make an argument around the transfer policy. You can make an argument about the wages. You can make an argument about loads of things that I don't disagree with. But if you're not prepared to acknowledge some of the things that are outside of his control that have massive influence and massive impact, then I just think that you're never going to win the middle of the road. I think that the moderate fan.
You're talking more about the FFP. Sorry to interrupt you, Sean. You're talking about his preparation for FFP that didn't actually, looks like it could not be a thing.
No, I mean, it is a thing. It is a thing. It certainly is a thing. Like Manchester United, we'll talk about this during the show. I've got a bunch of different topics for us to talk about, right? We're just getting into it. But like the FFP is a massive thing. You look at Sir Jim Ratcliffe, right? So one of the stories that came out this week, I only heard about this. Funnily enough, I only heard about this by stumbling across a small channel, and a shout out to them because I thought it was this guy. He's got 500 subscribers. He's obviously just getting going in his YouTube career, and I thought he put out a brilliant video. And he's not even. I think he's a Liverpool fan, and I think his channel's called Meh United FC or something like that. MEH United. Right? I don't think he necessarily does any particular team based, but from what I could gather, he's a Liverpool fan. And he went out of his way to say, "Look, I'm not saying this because I'm a Liverpool fan and I hate United, obviously." But he talked about Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and I didn't even know because I didn't see this in any of the media. And you know what? It would be front and center. If this was a Tottenham topic, it would be front and center of everything that you'd see. And it was Sir Jim Ratcliffe's, one of his cost-cutting measures was to cut the Christmas bonuses of stewards at Old Trafford. Well, they get paid £50 a game, and they have to obviously be there long before the game starts and long after the game finishes and tidy up. And it's not like a 90-minute event for them. It's a 6-7 hour thing. And apparently they have this thing whereby if previously under the Glaziers and under the previous sort of operations guy at United, if they do 10 for every 10 games that they do, they get £100 bonus. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe has cut that. Like he's taken their Christmas bonuses away because they need to, and their justification is to get the money together for transfer policy because they're up against FFP. And this guy, whoever he is, shout out to you if you watch. I doubt you're watching, but well done for doing your thing. He said it's an absolute disgrace. And he said if it happened at Liverpool and I'm a Liverpool fan, I would call it out as well. And I would call this out if Daniel Levy did it. I would. Yeah. But Sir Jim Ratcliffe has said, in order to pay by proxy, what he's saying is in order to pay the 400 grand a week that we pay Marcus Rashford, the lowest common, the lowest hanging fruit is to take the money out of the guys who get paid the least amount of money. They get paid,
It's not just them. It's not just them. He's cut the staff. He's cut the company credit card. He stopped away trips. He stopped people taking their families. As we know, he's got rid of Ferguson off of the bill for being an ambassador. He's gone through the whole thing. I mean, it's like an M&A. It's like mergers and acquisitions where you've gone in, you've merged two companies where there's synergy. We'll cut. But he isn't merged with anyone. He's just gone in there and he's had a massive cull of the easiest people that can't fight back.
Yeah. Right? And I think some people might rightly say, well, is that dissimilar to the Tottenham decision to take away the senior citizens, the concessions for senior citizens. I think that there is a little bit of merit to that, but again, the devil's in the detail. When you peel back the onion layer and you look at the consistency about narrative, what I would say is, whilst I didn't necessarily agree with the point in its principle, it's not all people that turn 65 that get hold of that discount. It's only the ones that have had it for a legacy, right? And as you move into a world where 2/3 of the population are going to be senior citizens very soon, if not already, then why is it that only 5% of Tottenham fans that are senior citizens get that discount and the rest don't? Why is it that there's a lot more to that whole story than the headline?
I accept that, but what I look at is the next generation coming through, and with the next generation coming through, you should have junior concessions, which he's got rid of or reduced. I remember, forget when I was young and I used to go underneath the turnstiles. I'm 6 foot, but back in the day I had a late spurt. And when I used to stand in the shelf, the guy would go, "Come on, son, get in here," right? And I would get between her legs and go through the turnstiles and I'd be in for nothing, right? And that's how it worked. But there were always concessions for kids.
And there should be concessions. There should be, Johnny. But again, bring it back to Tottenham, though, just quickly. Like, how? Because I never asked you this back in the day. How do you square it? Like, I think when you look at the United thing, and it's just a kind of a blanket sweep of everyone that's getting paid £50 for 6 hours work, and they have to, they're not even allowed. They're not supposed to watch the game. One of the benefits are you get to watch the game for free. You don't. You're not supposed to anyway. Some of them do probably, but if it's pissing with rain and it's freezing cold as it is this time of year, they have to lie on the floor if they're on the bottom, if they're on the pitch side. They have to get involved in squabbles. They have to get involved in fights and drunken, loutish behaviour. Not an easy job, not a nice job to have.
Yeah.
Right. But when you compare that to the Tottenham thing, where a block or 2 blocks or whatever it was that was allowed for the senior sessions, for the senior discounts, and you kind of go, well, taking that away is unfair on them. I would argue that, should you therefore give everybody that's over 65 a discount? And I don't think they do. Tottenham certainly don't. And, why is it that they should get the discount? The people that are 65, that weren't part of that particular block, they have to pay full price. And if, again, by extension, if you're saying everyone should get it, well, when you're walking into a demographic where 2/3 of the world are going to be, and therefore by extension, you can assume that 2/3 of Tottenham fans are also going to be 65 or older soon. Should you really give everybody the 1/3 discount?
Sean, throw them a bone, right? I'm talking about if someone has been a season ticket holder since they were 19 years of age and they're 65, throw them a bone, right? Read the room. Give them a couple of hundred.
But everybody.
Well, because listen, how many people over 65 stop going, or they don't go anymore, or whatever? Not everyone over 65 lasts over 65 for a starter, right?
I won't make it that far with my lifestyle.
Who wants to be a fan at 65? I mean, let's be honest. If you're over 65 and you're watching Tottenham Liverpool, you might need a medic on standby just in case, to administer some health. I mean, medicine for you. Look. The one thing I will never say is that Levy off field is a genius. He's a Cambridge graduate who graduated, very highly in his field, and it shows. But what's not acceptable, his inability to read the room, announce decisions at completely the wrong time, and do things. Yeah, we gone off topic.
That's what we do. That's what we do here. That's what we do.
Listen. Anyway, let's get back onto football matters.
No. I think it's important, Johnny. Listen, there's no topics here. We weave as a duo. We weave. We'll find our way back. I would like to know why the guys dressed as Squid Games, right? That was embarrassing, wasn't it? It was embarrassing, you know. But I'll tell you why, mate. If I'm entirely honest, I've always been someone that sat there and kind of went, well, you haven't got to be Daniel Levy with a business mind. You don't have to be someone who worries and thinks about finance all the time, like a lot of the times I'm accused of doing. You haven't got to be a rocket scientist to work out that the Min Yang Hyuk, I forget his name, Kwak Tu and spit on that Yang is what I call him. You haven't got to be a genius to figure out that there's obviously logic there. When I walked around that club shop, mate, for half an hour, and they had a guy in there that was literally employed to translate everything to Korean. So it's not beyond the realms of a stretch to say there's obviously logic to the idea of where a lot of the money comes from. And to me, though, I think the Koreans are just as loud supporters of the football club as well, maybe they might be supporting Sonny or whatever more than anything else. But ultimately, it all comes back to Tottenham. Do you want to be able to afford that next guy? When Ange says in the press, in the pre-match, the post-match, the pre-match before Nottingham Forest, when he keeps harking on that drum that now we are going to move away, hopefully, from the 18-year-old, the too much more young talent than the hub, that kind of notion. Now he wants to see a little bit more seniority coming in. All of that stuff starts and finishes with the ability to finance it. And Johnny, you can't have your cake and eat it. If you want the money, if you want the talent, the money is the precursor to it, and the money can come from these people, right? So I think that
well, no, listen.
How do you feel about this stuff?
Well, listen, look. What you saw on Sunday was a quiet club shop. I'm telling you, that was quiet. Okay, I come in there days where the queue is right out the door, all the way along the road, and they're coming out in floods.
Right.
The problem is nowadays. Like, I put my son back on because his name's not on his season ticket, my other son, and so he goes in to sit in another seat. He is number 206,000. Sean, 206,000. That means if Johnny, who's been going for years and years and years and years since I was 12 years of age, suddenly says, you know what, I'm done. Never mind, next, right? They don't care, right? And the thing is that there were so many tourists in that ground who don't really understand some of the culture, some of the songs, some of the bits and pieces that are about being a Spurs fan. That doesn't add to the atmosphere. It really doesn't, and I feel that now that's what we've got. I mean, when if I was to go to America, for example, I'd want to go to a American football game, right? Now, maybe they would react in the same manner. Is there anything wrong? Or if I wanted to go to El Clasico and I go to Barcelona, Real Madrid, and I sit there and I don't know all the songs. So I sit there and, I look happy, I'm videoing it. Is it any different? Is that not just the 21st century fan? Are we, we've moved away so much from, the old White Hart Lane, which had so much character and incredible atmosphere. And it was so tight and small. You couldn't get a ticket. You couldn't get a ticket. So this is the thing.
Johnny, would you agree with me or not? Right. So I see on Twitter today, I see pictures. They might have been out yesterday or the day before, but I see pictures. I see people that have got pictures of the White Hart Lane being knocked down, right, in the demolition process, and the people. The caption is the day that Tottenham Hotspur died.
Yeah.
And I'm just I sort of shake my head and kind of go, this is a typical example of. I guess my problem really with society, in that it's. I've said this 1,000 times on my individual monologues when I do my walks or whatever, or when I'm doing it in the bedroom here. I say, it's a universal human nature priority. If everybody has a little slice of the pie that could be aimed at them, if they can do anything they can to say, don't look over here, look over here, the old bait and switch, where it's not my fault, it's their fault, and here's why, and they point fingers. I think Ange does it a little bit. I think Tottenham fans do it a lot. I think that Daniel Levy would do it. I think that everyone in life does it. And I think that this notion that Tottenham Hotspur died the day that we knocked down White Hart Lane, a 36,000-seater stadium, to move into a 60,000-seater stadium, those same people are also saying, why is it that we can't win trophies? Why is it that we don't have the money? Why is it we can't afford this player, that player, when everyone else can? And at the same time, mock the club for moving towards progressive new futures that are an inevitability if you want to compete in the future. They want their cake and eat it. They want everything that they used to love, and they hate what it takes to get you to the place where you want what you want now. And for me, I think that you have to shake hands or you don't, right? But I'm not going to sit here and like get on board people that want to moan about what we used to have and don't have it anymore, but then also complain about why it is that we don't have the resources to be able to compete with the best.
I think it's nostalgia. You know, that last game at White Hart Lane against Manchester United, you know, brought a tear to my eye. You know, when I think about all the times and the memories I have there with friends and, you know, people who are no longer with us and, you know, players and the memories of those games, nights under the lights. They were special times. And let's be honest, you know, we were promised, Sean, that, you know, this great stadium that listen, it was old. We needed something modern, right? And we were told, you know, we're going to knock this down and we're going to build a super stadium. Okay. And it's going to be a game changer for us as a club. And there was a lot of excitement. And, you know, as sad as I was to see it go, I was also excited about what it was going to bring. And, you know, and obviously you've got the debt, huge debt, building a stadium like that, which run, you know, 400 million over budget, like most things do in this country.
Right.
And
correct, by the way. Really good point. It's not just Tottenham that went over budget. It's everything. Right?
It's everything you do that goes over budget. But, you know, the idea that we were going to bring all these things into the stadium, the NFL, again, I enjoyed that because I'm an NFL fan. And, you know, the concerts, I don't mind any of that, right? But what I was expecting to see was maybe an uptick in the kind of players that we were signing, but also the fact that I feel that, and I think a lot of fans feel the same, Levy could throw crumbs to the fans that would appease them. Like, for example, you know, build the museum that we were promised, you know, the Tottenham Museum, you know, because that is part of our history, you know, put some of the statues out, you know, the Bill Nicholson statue. When I remember Spurs going there as a kid, I used to stand outside those gates and, you know, there would be the board up with the next home game and you'd hope to catch a glimpse of players driving in and going in with their stuff through the front door at the West Stand. But we don't have any of that. When you look
Johnny, let me ask you, as a you know, a fairly strong part of the Levy Out movement. I know you spend a lot of time on this channel, so maybe people mistake you for being somewhere nearer where I am, but you are part of the Levy Out crew.
I'm a balance. What I would say is I'm a balanced Levy Out, right? I admire and applaud what he's done. I mean, the restructuring of that 675 million over 25 years at 2.75% was
unbelievable.
Stroke. It's
unbelievable right? Financial.
Well, that is an astute business brain. That's
the obvious one, Johnny. That's the obvious one. I did a video a couple of days ago about the stadium naming rights, right? And I said, like, oh, you know, you have to balance up that. Yes, you could have got something back in the day if you think it's worth it. I'm of the belief that the intangible unknowns around what is the value of an American or otherwise fan coming in, if you get them for a lifetime and their friends and family and people around them, how do you quantify that? It's difficult to do financially, but ultimately there is a yin and a yang to that debate.
It wasn't fault though, Sean. It was right. I mean, they've actually said that various people have said, you know, they've arrived at this by default. You know, when they came in, obviously didn't expect to be locked down and the drop off in big sponsorship deals due to the COVID and all the rest of it. But what they noticed as the time went on, for example, the NFL, like we play FIFA, there's a game called John Madden. And John Madden NFL game, they've been playing the same stadiums. They've had the same stadiums forever, right? You've got a chance now to play in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, okay? So they play in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They're playing every week on their computers. We'll play there. We don't want to play at Soldier Field or wherever, right? We're going to play here.
100%.
And what happens, what they found is that people got to know the name Tottenham Hotspur. It was fantastic advertising that more and more the growth in North America with North American fans for Spurs has been huge, right? And it's
astronomical.
Just through this.
You see it just in the comment section. Let me ask you guys this right now, right? Like, let me ask you, if you're watching this, I know it's probably early in the morning, depending on where you are in America. It's either 10:30 in the morning if you're East Coast, or it could be 7:30. But let us know if you are American and you're watching this right now. Like, type in USA, put that in your comment section. Okay, I want to see how many people, what percent. There's 330 people or whatever it is watching this on YouTube right now, and I'd love to know what's going on. But I genuinely do think that intangible, Johnny, is it's difficult to put a number on it. It's very difficult to quantify, but I do think it's worth its weight in gold. What I would also say, just to get back to that point around the naming rights deals and the temptation to lock yourself in for a length of time that might underwrite a certain valuation, but that could be good or bad. And Daniel Levy thought it was bad to do it because of the circumstances that we walked into in 2020 and going forward. But at the same time, Johnny, we talk about the genius of that 2.5% debt lock-in. Yeah. The other thing that he did was the Nike deal for the sponsorships, right? He signed that deal.
Good. Hang on a second, right, Sean? I actually disagree with you here, right? So that deal has already been superseded, right? Already. He extended that deal to a 15-year deal. Was that correct?
The debt?
No, I'm talking about the Nike deal that he extended during lockdown because he was worried about finances. And
it's a 10-year deal at the moment. It breaks away at 20. I think it breaks away at 2029. I think the debt goes to 2030. Oh. Maybe I'm back in my head. I'm thinking 2034. Maybe you're right. Maybe you are right.
I think you'll find that he panicked, right? He panicked. There's no two ways about it, right? Because I questioned the deal at the time. He panicked during lockdown that let's take a deal. Nike came to them in a moment of weakness when most deals are offered to people. And there's plenty of USA in there. Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you.
But no, he panicked in that moment, Sean. He really did. And he signed up a deal for 15 years with Nike at a yearly amount, which has already been superseded by Arsenal, by Adidas. So, what I'm worried about here is how bad is that deal and that 10 million a year going to look?
Well, it's an interesting diet. And listen, we can chew that one over anytime you want. There's lots of facets to it. What I would say is that in terms of the timing of the deal, 2018, he signed it. That was at the peak, or 2019, the peak, deal. Right? The peak. We got to the Champions League final, right? And he signs a deal.
Yeah.
Daniel Levy's probably not an idiot. Well, he's definitely not an idiot, but he probably went, how much better is it going to get? Like, it's probably, in all likelihood, I believe that Tottenham punched above their weight in that season massively. If you think back to the league performance in 2018-19 season, we weren't doing that great. Poch was on the sort of decline. He gets us to the Champions League final. Some would argue by hook or by crook, by a bit of luck with the Man City, with the offside thing. Then you got the Ajax moment with
no one cares about history. It's the fact that we were there. You know that.
No, 100%. Yeah. But in terms of like how likely was it to be replicated, is Daniel Levy, he's got to sit there and kind of go, if you're punching above your weight, it's kind of like crypto or like the stock market, man. We talk about this all the time offline, right? At what point do you take your profits? Do you take your profits when it's kind of on its when it's above the valuation that it probably should be because there's a momentum and a movement towards that story, or do you wait until everyone gets in and then you think it's going to go further, but it doesn't? It's the old crypto thing. Everyone thinks when it's doing this, everyone piles in up here, and then the people with the smart minds sell the granny up there, right? And they're already out, right? And so I think Daniel Levy can make the argument that a 10-year deal when we were punching above our weight anyway made a little bit of sense for the story.
I think the deal was, if you read back on the articles, it was a deal put forward by Nike because they sensed that Spurs did have financial issues, Sean. We had a massive debt to repay. We had a massive debt to pay and we had no income coming in. It's as simple as that. So what do you do? So Nike, knowing that, you know, we had some vulnerability there, approached us with an offer to give us a large cash payment up front. Merry Christmas, Darren.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And, you know, ease those woes. And we took it. We took it, right? Because he panicked. I'm not saying it was a bad thing, but now when you look at the deals being signed by Arsenal, by Man United, and other clubs, our kit deal is a dwarf. It's tiny in comparison to the deals they're signing now. How minuscule is that going to look in 5, 6, 7, 8 years time?
Yeah.
Because it's not even index links as far as I know.
Yeah, look, I mean, listen, I mean, we'll wait and see. It all depends on where Tottenham are, where they're going, right? The trajectory is every part as much of the value proposition as the where you are now. That's the way it works. Like you bake in 50% of where you are and 50% of where you might be. And I don't think that Daniel Levy did anything wrong with regards. I agree with him on the naming rights still. People will always think that I'll always find a reason to back him with the naming rights. I think he was right with the reflection. With the stadium, with the kit manufacturer. I mean, look, I don't think anybody knew quite how much the cost of putting on the product was going to be. I think that all of those things at the time, nobody knew that there was going to be the Ukraine war. Nobody knew what was going to happen with regards to inflation. Nobody knew so many. I said this on the last upload I did about the the situation in which you find yourselves with regards to naming rights is exactly the same with regards to any long-term contract. You have to make a judgment call on not just where you are as a football club, but where the economy is, the variables that influence these decisions, mate. You know this, Johnny. You're a smart guy and you're into the stock market. We all, me and you talk about this stuff all the time offline. Yeah. You have to shake hands with the unknowns as much as you do the knowns. And for me, I don't think he did a bad decision. I think he was right on most of these things. Now, some of them he's not going to get right with the benefit of hindsight. I got
to say, they have stated that this wasn't an intentional thing. They didn't intentionally decide we're not going to get naming rights. What happened was the market fell off, and then people started producing data like what we're talking about. The experts and people who are employed just to study these very same things that we're talking about noticed the massive growth in North America in the Spurs fan base. And what did you attribute that to? It wasn't due to a naming rights. It was due to the fact that it was known as the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. The growth of soccer, football in America is huge. And therefore, what team am I going to support? I got people now who, are quite new to American football. They don't have an allegiance to a team. So what's going to make them support Miami? Or, maybe they went on holiday to Miami and they love Miami, so they're going to support the Miami Dolphins. Or,
of course, it's a lovely color shirt as well. It's a lovely, beautiful color shirt.
Yeah, or maybe they were, in Philadelphia by mistake, and
there's one team that I spent 3 years over in America, and there's one team that I reckon that the hardcore supporters of probably don't stem from further afield than maybe 100 miles from where that place is. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Correct me if I'm wrong, Americans. Correct me if I'm wrong. Those who are in the chat, the Steeler country is a fairly close-knit community around that Rust Belt in Philadelphia. Let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I would imagine that most people that support the Steelers are hardcore from around Philadelphia.
Back in the day, I mean, I got drawn into American football, funny enough, by Walter Payton and the Refrigerator Perry. I
met that man.
Chicago Bears, but then I also like Montana, Jerry Rice. Some of the great players. My son's very much Miami Dolphins fan, so he sort of sucked me that way. But listen, what I'm saying is, the growth is there, and I applaud that, and we can't knock that. So when we do see Americans coming to the stadium, some of the fans' reaction, it's full of Americans and it's full of this, that's what you want. You want, a fan base that's growing worldwide. There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't.
I love it, mate. I think it's fantastic. You know, listen, not to harp on about the Koreans, but the girls the Korean girls that turn up, maybe with the hope of seeing Sonny. I'm not sure what their ambitions are, whether it's just cultural, but it was absolutely freezing. It was freezing yesterday or the day before yesterday. And the rest of us that are hardcore Londoners that brave it occasionally, whatever, we're all dressed up in our long johns and our, overbearing. These girls are coming out in short skirts, shorter than short skirts, and they've got their makeup on. I don't know whether they were hoping to meet Sonny after the game and a chance meeting. Maybe they can convince him. I'm not sure. But these girls and the guys, to be fair, they were they're all there dressed up like it's a summer's day for most. I was just like, what? Fair play. I love the effort. I love the ambition. And it was it's
fortunes.
The joy to see, to be entirely honest.
Sure, they're spending fortunes, right? I'm going out. I'm looking to go out to Korea in March time, right? Okay. I mean, I was thinking maybe I'll get myself a Sonny shirt and see what happens, or a Sonny mask. And just start walking
Sonny mask. That might stand you in better stead, mate. Might stand you in better stead.
Walk around a Sonny mask and see where that gets me. Look, fair dues to them, but look, I would like to see this club, show its history. It's not a lot, and if Levy read the room, he'd build the bloody museum, right? Let us, dads, mums, grandpas, take their grandchildren, their sons, their relatives, or whoever, or the tourists or whatever, to the Tottenham Museum. Show them, we're going to have the joke, show them the trophies that aren't there, right? Show them the history. Show them the history, because I feel like it's been cleansed. I want to see statues. I want to see statues to the great. I want to see the first black man that ever played for Spurs. Tully that died in the war, right? He was so far ahead of his time. I want to see to Bill Nick. I want to see to other icons. As I said, Arsenal have 5 or 6 statues. I even go to Coventry. They've got a big statue of Jimmy Hill. I go to Manchester United. They've got, a picture of Best, Charlton, and I think it's Dennis Law, it might have been. And then they've got another statue of Matt Busby that, honour the past.
I hear you.
It's something to talk about.
Honour the past, harvest the future. I completely agree with you, mate.
Future, not hide it away in put up an F1 sign, put up an NFL sign, but don't put any signs that the club is a football club. Inside the ground, I spoke to the guy from Muirwalls who did the Ledley King and the
Harry Kane one.
Harry Kane one. Mark, I can't forget his surname now. And, I said to him, look how many spare walls there are inside the stadium, those bare beige stone walls. We could have murals up on the walls.
Yeah.
To show.
Listen, I think we can shake hands on that one, mate. Like, there's no reason to not have it. Like I say, I think that the argument that there's no homage paid at all to the history, I'm not sure that's true. There are the VIP suites that are named after certain players, but I agree with you. It's not.
How many fans see that, Sean? Right? Why can't you have, instead of the North stand, why can't it be the Bill Nicholson stand?
Yep. No, I don't disagree. I think you can be big in small things. My first manager in investment banking, who I hated, he hated me. But the one thing I did learn from him was be big in small things. If you've got an important broker that phones up and they've made a screw up and you ended up buying a couple of thousand shares and they meant to sell them or whatever, and it might cost you £100 or £1,000, whatever, to reverse the trade, and it helps him out against the client who's furious, then it doesn't cost you the arm, and it doesn't cost your company the arm and a leg, but it helps him out and it makes him give the phone call to you next time. As in, it wins you over. Be big and small. Throw him a bone. I don't disagree with you at all, mate, on that one. And I think that Tottenham and Daniel Levy do miss a trick. In terms of does he have his finger on the pulse with regards, reading the room? He doesn't. And maybe he needs a little bit of support in that regard. I'm very much in agreement. When it comes to the bigger picture stuff, is he this nightmare that people sometimes describe him as? I don't think he is. I think he's very smart. And I think that without the logic and the business sense with regards logic on that basis, I think that we'd be in a lot worse position. And as I said to you at the start, people like Sir Jim Ratcliffe are an example, not the only example, but an example of be careful what you wish for, because most Manchester United fans wanted the Glazers out. They didn't quite get what they wanted. And they've got this other guy coming in. And let's be honest, if the next guy was Jim Ratcliffe that took over Tottenham, a lot of the Levy out guys would be anyone but him. And then so Jim Ratcliffe comes in, and if you hear on the Monday that the guys who lay down on the freezing cold turf have to sacrifice their Christmas bonuses in the pursuit of being able to pay for, whoever's Christmas bonus who's not even kicking enough goals for us, then there'd be uproar about that as well. So be careful what you wish for. Johnny, just give me a couple of seconds because there's a few member shout outs and things here I want to get through, because it's I always do it anyway, but it's also Christmas.
We can talk football there, because were we not entertained on the weekend? We've got to talk about this. We have to talk. That's the whole purpose of the show, really, was to get onto that and to Nottingham Forest, because we've got a really tough game coming up on Thursday as well. So before we get into that, guys, Spurs GCTV, member for 14 months. Smash the Christmas likes, folks. Merry Christmas all. Appreciate you, mate. Thank you so much for your support. Merry Christmas to you, my man, or Happy Hanukkah. As Johnny's changing his background, he wants to. I don't know what happened. He's got some new technology. Johnny's got some new technology. He wants to bring to our attention. No. That
it's nice. It's nice. You got a bit of bamboo. That's you're paying homage to the Koreans, right? Maybe that's Chinese. Maybe I don't know what's going on here. Careful. We got Howie EIS, Howie Ace. From Canada, big up. I said the USA earlier. I should have said North America generally. There's a lot of Canadians here as well. Which players would you go after in January window? We're going to come back to that, mate. I'm going to star that one and come back to it, because we are going to talk about some transfers at some part in this show as well. Thank you for the support, though. Less Known is also a new member. You're not going to be less known anymore. You're going to be more well known as a new member of the show. Thank you for the support. And on that basis, guys, listen. Since I've come back, after shenanigans were put to one side and I've started to come back, I was at 26,000, I think 500 subscribers back in June when I took my hiatus. Came back to find that a few hundred of you had disappeared, because obviously you thought maybe I was done, and you were just like, let's get rid of this subscriber from the list. We went back to 26.1. We built it back up to 26.5, and it got smashed 300 overnight. And then we built it back up to 26.5 for the second time, and it got smashed 300 again last night. So I don't know what's going on. Shenanigans are afoot. Either the hackers are watching this and just able to just take away subscribers, or YouTube is part of the problem. But it's you. You're part of the problem. If you're not on board, YouTube, my growth, and you are part of the bloody problem. Either way, guys, double check you're still subscribed. If you're not subscribed, smash the subscribe button. We're going to get back and hopefully breach that 26,500 mark. But thank you for the support. We've got Blaine Devlin, massive channel member. Always a massive part of the show. Big up, Blaine. Good to see you, mate. Sorry, Johnny, what was that?
I said have Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas to all, exactly. And big up to you, man. Wishing you both a Merry Christmas and our great chat and community too. Santa, bring us 3 points versus Forest, please. 100%, Blaine. I love you, my man. And not just because you are a pursuit of physical finesse like I am, mate. We're in the gym as much as we possibly can avoid it. I understand where you're going. I'm going through the same sort of thing. But you also your absolute support of the channel, and that comes always in the most loveliest fashion, mate. Gifted 10 Spurs Talk Show memberships. I haven't got the background story up, so I can't see who received them. But make sure you reach out to Blaine and say a massive thank you. I am absolutely, guys, going to be bringing back the fan phone-in shows very, very soon, and 10 of you will get the chance to participate in that, thanks to Blaine. So, but thank Blaine, you're an absolute legend, man. Thank you so much for the support, buddy. Really appreciate you. You're an absolute dynamite over there in Northern Ireland. I hope you're doing well, my man. Hennessy, member for 3 months. Big up to you, my man. Member, Merry Christmas Eve. All. Thank you, Hennessy. I hope you're doing well, my mate. I met you once upon a time out. Was it in Tottenham? Somewhere I met you. I think I met you in person once upon a time. Also, I know you from the Irish Hotspur as well, and that's where you are known for your most frequent participation in the online space. But thank you so much, man. I can't wait to meet you on the channel as well. And Benny Boy Kaufman. What's happening, Benny Boy? Good to see you, mate. Merry Christmas, everyone, and a happy Hanukkah. Is that how you spell Hanukkah?
Hanukkah.
Is that how you spell it? Because I text Johnny earlier saying happy Hanukkah, and it came Honikker. I didn't know how you say it. Now I realise why there was no. It had a red line saying it didn't recognise the word, but it didn't give me an option.
It's like you got something in your throat. Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah to you guys. Been a tough year this year, but we will end up for the better. We'll end up for the better for it, mate. We will indeed. Love to you, Benny boy. Love to everybody. Let's swing forward, guys. Thank you guys for the support. Really appreciate it. It's been a ridiculously hard year. I can't wait for 2024 to be over. Listen, Johnny, talk to me about what happened. Tottenham 3, Liverpool 6, 3 goals. Liverpool haven't conceded against any other.
Were you not entertained? Listen, look, if you like horror movies, that was entertainment. It really was beautiful entertainment. If you like horror and you like drama, that was for you. You know, if for the neutral fan, if I was sat at home as a neutral fan, I'd be going, oh, "This is amazing. I love watching Tottenham." As I said, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get.
Say it in an Australian accent. Say it in an Australian accent. Go.
Everyone will say, listen, life's like a box of chocolates. You never know which one you're going to get, mate. No, it's not very good. It's not very good.
Yeah, failed. The terrible
Failed miserably. Yeah. Look, Ange Ball has got more holes than a Swiss cheese. It's more open than, you know, the UK border crossing coming across from France. Okay.
Wowzers,
we were handing out Christmas presents. Honestly, more open than Jordan's legs.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, I don't know where to start. Look, I will say to you that I thought Archie Gray and Jed Spence was superb, and we lost 6-3. Okay. I felt sorry for them because, you know, their performance, they were trying so hard, but we had a midfield that was almost non-existent at times. No, I don't think so too. I can't understand why I never got the main part. I just honestly, look, all I want for Christmas is for Ange to look in the mirror and say, you know what? This worked in Japan. This worked in Australia. This worked in the Scottish League. I have to look at myself and say, look, you know, the principle can remain the same, but I need to tweak it and I need to sprinkle some pragmatism on this and be more balanced. That's why we have yin and yang. And when I look at Arne Slot, yes, Arne Slot has a better squad. We all know that. But what he's done, he's come in and taken Klopp's manic Gegenpress style football of attack, and it's more measured and it's more controlled. You know, the way they were hunting in packs when they lost the ball, Sean, reminded me of Guardiola's Barcelona back in the day when they controlled the ball, and when they lost it, you know, they got it back pretty quickly. But you know, for a team that had less possession than us, but every time they had the possession, they looked, because it was just too easy. It was too easy. And I'll be honest with you, you know, I do hear what people say, that we're riddled with injuries. Of course, you know, you have to take that into account. But my point is that we've been seeing the same thing, not 6 goals, granted, but we've been seeing the same sort of thing when we've had a full team. You can't say we haven't seen this when we've had, you know, Romero and Mickey playing. We've seen massive gaps. We've seen Porro, you know, exposed with this system. And all I'm asking for is to look at it and make adjustments. And when you see Gravenbach and others in the Liverpool team and other teams that we played turn around and say, we knew exactly what we were going to get with Spurs. We knew how they were going to play. We knew we had a plan. There's no surprise. You know, unpredictability is a great asset when you're playing any game. You know, being predictable isn't the way to go. Sorry, Jacob, Sean, because otherwise I would just.
No. I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I think that unpredictability is a problem. I think that you have to, if you're going to be predictable, you have to be absolutely excellent with it. What I would say, not in his defense, but just the reality of the situation is that if he was to turn around and say to his team, we're going to change up against Forest, right? We're going to be a little bit more pragmatic. We're going to sit back. I think that the players would turn around and go, well, we haven't trained for that, right? And what I don't want is for him to turn around and ask the players to do something that they're not prepared to do. And if they've spent zero time on the training ground preparing for a plan B, for a different system, then I'd rather them play the version that they are familiar with and hope for the best than play a system that they're not familiar with and know the worst, right? That's if you haven't spent any time preparing for a plan B, which we obviously haven't, then to ask for something different now is asking. It's asking to turn a race car into a tractor. I don't think it's going to really work.
John? I mean, look, I'll read you. This was from Kulusevski, okay, that came out today. Kulusevski, who struck the second Spurs goal, maintained the team's shortcomings are not just black and white, but he suggested there are times when compromises could be required on the field. When reporters put to Kulusevski that control during the matches was something Spurs ought to seek, he said, if you want to get results, maybe yes. You have to think about how are we physically? Who are we playing? How many games have we played the last week? Who are we playing? Have they rested for 1 week or something? You have to put everything in because it's like life. It's not just black and white. It's a lot of factors going into it. Kulusevski then added, no, maybe not. When further probed about Spurs' approach being sustainable, he's put, but you have to improve. You have to find ways, he said. Maybe we should have let them have the ball more, but that's not how we play. We went out, we gave everything. It didn't work. Maybe we need to learn for the next time. And I just wonder whether what he's saying there is, what we speak about many, many times. I spoke about this many times. I think Ange is one of the first coaches that I can remember that says, I don't care about the other team. I don't care what our injuries are. We will always maintain and play exactly the same way. And, when you look at Iraola and even, what's his name, who got sacked from Wolves, Gary O'Neill.
Yeah.
He studied the way and how we play and how to beat us. He studied the opposition. How do you nullify Spurs and expose Spurs at the same time? And
but he got sacked, right?
Why did he get sacked? 100%. I'm just saying though, when it's there and nothing is going to change, is it difficult? Is it difficult to conquer? Is it difficult to conquer? Should you not, if you're playing Liverpool? I'm not saying put 11 men behind the ball and defend. I'm just saying, you've got an 18-year-old number 6 who's playing centre-back. You've got a right-back playing left-back. You've got a right-back who looks like he's ready to collapse at any minute. And you've got Dragusin, who, in all fairness, is not designed to play high-line football, in my opinion. What do you do? Like, for me, you need to protect that back four. Whether that's playing.
Listen, I don't disagree with you in principle, right? But unfortunately, we have a guy that sticks to his framework. Is there any point in, let's forget about theoretically, realistically, is there any point in asking for a guy to suddenly turn around and say, you know what? Okay, F it. I'm sick to death of the critical feedback. You know what? Against Forest, sit back.
No.
If I'm a player that's played every minute and trained every minute under this guy and his coaching staff that haven't prepared us for that, I think that results in even more chaos. Because they're not used to it. They don't know how to do that second version.
No, I hear what you're saying. I'm not asking for drastic change. I'm not asking for a complete 360, 180-degree turn. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking, look, Slotter's come in. Yes, they're a better squad. No question about that. But what he's done, first of all, he's put Gravenbach in the middle of that midfield, and he's making them tick. He's always playing a Rodri part. What I'm saying is that change it up slightly to have more balance between this all-out attack with a hint of pragmatism to in-game management to read the game. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking him to suddenly play Conte ball or Mourinho ball. That's not his philosophy.
If he hasn't prepared these guys even for any other version of Tottenham, then are we like? Let me
invert one back, Sean. Invert one back. Don't invert two at the same time. How about that?
I don't think we always do invert both at the same time. I think there's a bit of a myth to that. I think that there are tweaks that you see. The fundamental analysis, though, is you get the ball and you push it forward and you play it the way we do, right? And my argument in his defense, and I don't disagree with you principally, that the absence of a plan B, the absence of a dramatic different version of ourselves is not problematic. I also would argue that there is no more value. There's no better a team that can grab more value out of the benefit of having a different version of ourselves. That if you show just once, given the fact that every team thus far has known exactly what version of Tottenham they're going to see, and plan and prep for that team in the days leading up to the game, knowing that we're going to put on this version of ourselves, I think that it's worth reminding us that if you do there's something different just once, then not only will you stand to benefit from that particular team that's coming up against us next, i.e. Forest, you can catch them unaware because they're going to expect and have planned for a version of us that they won't see, and it might work. It may or may not. And that's fine. And I don't disagree with that. But like I say, by extension, I also think that from then on, every other version of us every other team that's playing against us has to allocate some part of their preparation time towards, just in case Tottenham do what they did against Forest, we have to spend some time preparing for that version. Absent that, the absence of that allows everybody to have 100% of their focus planning and preparing for the same version that they know to expect. So I'm not arguing against that. I think it's valuable, and I think it's the absence of it is remiss of us to not even at least throw it out there. But at the same time, if the guy isn't going to do it, and he hasn't done it thus far, then expecting us to do it against Forest or whoever's next after that, you're asking the team to put on a show and hope that it works when they haven't had any time dedicated to it themselves. And I think that in and of itself, whilst problematic, is the reality in which we find ourselves. And therefore, I'm not an advocate of expecting us to suddenly put on a version of us that we haven't, it's one thing to catch them off guard, but it's going to catch us off guard because we don't know what it's like. This team, this 11, this 25, this 15 that are fit, they haven't had enough time working to a plan B. So I'd rather them fail at plan A than be completely alien to some version of ourselves that is just Ange yielding to the pressure of the fans and the media. I don't know if that makes sense.
But listen, look, they're footballers, Sean. I hear what you're saying, but they're footballers. It's not like they've never kicked a ball. We're talking about a team that played Conte ball, highly defensive, counter-attacking football. And they played at other clubs. They've played under a variety of systems. All I'm asking for is to acknowledge the opposition, look at the opposition, look at the team you're putting out and the likely weaknesses. They targeted Dragusin, they did very well. I mean, listen, 6-3 actually.
Trent's cross though, when Dragusin was exposed, the cross from Trent was just unplayed. I don't care who's in there. I don't care if Virgil van Dijk is in there. That cross was absolutely sensational.
It was a great cross. But what about the when Kulu was on the edge of their box, going towards the edge of their box? He lost possession. McAllister, 4 passes. It's in the back of the net. We were, as I said, we're open, so open, and I'm just asking to protect.
Moran, I'll see you in about an hour, and when you do, you'll see me. I'm giving you the thumbs up when you get to this point in the show.
I hope he turns it around. I hope he can do it. In this fan base, if you criticize Ange, then you're obviously Ange out. I have had enough of it. I have had enough, Sean. I have had enough. I've travelled all over this country, watching my team, and I love them. you know, going up to Rangers and watching that. It was a hard watch. You know, that isn't a great Rangers team. You know, third in the Scottish League. You know, they got their own struggles, and yet we look second best. I hope he can turn it round. I really do, but I think. Are
you on board Ange out right now, Johnny?
I think he has to. I think he has to get something out of these next two games. You know, he cannot afford to come away with like a point or something out of the next two. I think he has to win at least one of those next two games. Do you not think?
So we've got Forest on Thursday. Who's after that? Remind me.
Wolves.
Yeah, Wolves at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, I mean, excuses. Look, the one thing I'm not a massive fan about Ange when he says like, "Oh, I'm not one to make excuses," and then goes and reels off the excuses anyway. He doesn't mind. He doesn't mind that. You know, like it's not lost on me that. But at the same time, I think that the excuses are right. You know, that they are like there's nobody in the club, there's nobody in the Premier League that has the same injuries that we do. My argument would be, would anything have changed tactically, if that's even the word? Would they have changed had we had Van De Ven and Dragusin or Romero in? You know, I don't necessarily. I think there's plenty of examples of us getting turned over with a full strength team as there is with a makeshift team. So.
Correct.
I don't necessarily think that the excuse is necessarily the problem, and he wants to. He'll die on the hill. He will die on the hill. You know. I also think that, I think he feels a little bit sorry for himself. I do worry a little bit about the way that he's handling the pressure, the way that he reacted after the Man United game. He came across a little bit like gloaty, like he was kind of.
Were you not entertained?
He was celebrating that so much because it worked, right? But had it gone the other way, had we considered that fourth goal and then, we went to penalties and lost, then it would have been an entirely different version of him, a version of him that you see quite often at the moment, which is sulky and sooky. So I think that he's struggling with the pressure a little bit. He is, because I don't think he's used to it. He hasn't been used to this kind of this barrage of analysis. Wherever else he's been. And I think you have to go all the way back to when he was the Australian national team manager and before that, the youth team manager to kind of to see that version where he got hounded out by the press. So I don't think he handles the pressure of losses very well. I think he handles the kind of the version of success, if you want to call it that, with a different version of himself, which is brilliant. But I think he's struggling quite a lot, mate. And listen, Nottingham Forest up next is probably the last team you want, because some people will remember that how good Liverpool are, and they went into that game pretty much kind of sure that with the version of events as they see it, with Liverpool a full strength team, as comfortable as they are under Arne Slot, the fact that everything's kind of working well as a team, a unit, the style of football, everything's almost kind of like perfect at Liverpool right now, and at Tottenham. It's not. It's far from it. And so most people outside the stadium weren't expecting very much. They really weren't, right?
No.
And so not that conceding 6 is an excuse at all. There's no reason why you should ever concede 6 at home. The fight back there's something there. If you're looking for positives, you can sit there and say, well, the boys never let their heads drop. There's reasons to believe that the boys believe in the system and that they're fighting for each other. There are things that you can grab hold of and run with if you want to, but there's also reasons to sit there and say, well, what would have changed had you had a full strength team? Where I think the real pressure piles on is if you lose to Nottingham Forest, because they are a team that are in brilliant form, a team that don't necessarily have a squad that, for what it's worth, I think they have some wonderful players in that team. Players like Murillo at the centre back. I think he's a sensational centre half and a player that I'd love to see at Tottenham. The Hojbjerg, what's his name? Hudson-Odoi. Yeah, a player that we
were Aina.
Aina as well, right? The right back. Yeah, there's a lot of talent in that team.
Anthony Elanga, who's the second fastest player in the league. Look, the thing is, when we played Manchester United, I pointed out that Manchester United had 20 shots, and people said to me, "Oh, but they weren't proper shots. They were like," and I said, "No, you're missing the point. This is a shockingly bad Manchester United team that we allow to have 20 shots. So the fact that they were all over the place is irrelevant. If you give 20 shots, you allow 20 shots playing Liverpool or a top team, you're going to get decimated. And let's be honest, against Liverpool, 6 goals flattered us. They had 24 shots. 24, 12 on target. They hit the bar. We blocked the ball 8 times. Pedro Porro made 7 saves. It could have been a lot worse. You know, when you look at it, you know, we lost to Southampton. We beat Southampton. We beat a terrible Southampton team, and we beat a terrible Man United team. And I hear the stories, you know, you've got to give the guys time. It's a project. I understand that, but here's a parallel for you. Iraola went to Bournemouth, same time, 18 months. Okay, here's a guy that trains in a park, that has a changing room that's in a porter cabin, that plays in front of 11,000 fans with a tiny squad. Yeah, that has got a better team than us, right?
Yeah, but hold on, better
at
team.
the moment. In form and the way they're playing, okay.
Better team or a better like output?
Well, I look at the results. I'm saying,
would you be happy if Bournemouth's team was Tottenham starting 11?
No. I'm saying to you is, with inferior tools, okay, with inferior tools, he's getting better results.
Yeah,
okay?
But that's often the case. Often the case, Johnny. It's very easy. Like, as someone who worked in marketing for so long, and I was an expert in SEO, which is all about getting your team, getting your company that you're working for towards ranking number 1 on Google. It's very easy to move your client's website from position 50 to position 5. It's very difficult to move them from position 5 to position 1 because that's where the quality is, right? It gets harder as you go up, and so essentially because of external factors, and so. I would argue that there's a hell of a lot of Nuno Espirito Santos out there. There's a hell of a lot of Iriolas, of the Zerbis. There's all these guys that have a wonderful track record of taking a nobody team, or not a nobody team, that's disrespectful, a team that is unexpectedly in that kind of that conversation of Europe. It's very difficult. And most of the time, those guys don't transition well from the bottom half of the Premier League team towards a top half that are fighting for honours. You name me 5 managers in the last 10 years that have proven themselves at the lower leagues that have then come into a team like Tottenham, like Arsenal, like Chelsea, like anybody else, and then
listen, I don't think Emery. I don't think Emery was given a chance. I thought he was treated very unfairly at Arsenal. If you want my honest opinion, I really did. But you know, you look at Nuno. I mean, when Nuno came to Spurs, he wanted what's his name, Raul Pedro Silva, to be his number 2. Right? He'd worked with him many times before successfully, and Levy didn't allow him to bring his number 2. We got Ryan Mason. Here's one for you, ready-made. Try him. So he wasn't allowed to bring him, and it failed. Now, he's been allowed to take him to Forest. He was allowed to be at Wolves. And, you know, a number 2 is very important, right? Very important. What I find interesting about Ange is not an on-hand trainer. He does not sit there and take training. He lets his coaches take training. So you would think that the coaches that he works with are people that he's worked with for years and years and years.
Yeah, I agree.
Trust implicitly. He's brought in 2 guys that got sacked by Hibernian to be running it. These guys are pinching themselves. They can't believe their luck that where they are now, and rightly so. But you know, I don't quite understand that. You know, you look at Pochettino. He's worked with Jesus Perez and his guys for.
He takes them everywhere with him, doesn't he? He takes them everywhere.
He takes them everywhere with him. Now, I can tell you quite categorically, if I was running my business, I would be looking to keep with people that I'd been worked with, that I totally trust and understand my principles, that I don't need to stand there and watch them. But to bring someone that I've never worked with before, who had failed and been sacked in another job for failing to meet the required standards, I then employ him and I say, you know what, go and run my thing and just tell me how it's going at the end of the day. I wouldn't be able to trust that. And this is what happens with Ange. Second of all is, Matt Wells has stated, I did a video about 6-7 weeks ago, where he stated the intensity of training is such that it must match the game environment. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence that we've had 5 hamstring injuries. I think a lot of the injuries are self-inflicted by the intensity that we're having in both. When you look at other teams that play with intensity, are they really doing that in training? 5 days a week. When you're playing 3 days a week, I seem to remember other coaches, Pochettino, mentioning, with this schedule, we can't do too much training because we don't want to overtrain them because they'll not have anything, come game time. Sometimes I look at these, our players, and I think to myself, they don't look like they have the energy to compete. I felt like I saw that against Liverpool. Maybe mentally they're willing and wanting to, to compete, but they didn't have the legs. They didn't have the legs. There's something not right overall.
I don't disagree with you on the analysis about the coaches. I don't. I think it's madness. If you have a specific system and you have a specific, our way or the highway kind of thing, then the idea of like taking that philosophy to wherever you go without people that understand it and can implement it, especially if you don't have that same kind of attention to detail on the training ground, then I think you're asking a lot of the staff to implement your system, and you're not visible to implement it yourself. I find that odd. I do find that odd, and it maybe has something to do with the fact that where he's garnered that and harvested that success in the past, maybe those teams, those clubs, those without knowing them, and I'm not sure if this is a stretch, but maybe there isn't the same resources, the same attention to detail, and maybe you're up against levels of like
lesser level,
lesser level of quality in your own department, but also at this stage, at this level, you're up against people that are looking for every fine margin to take advantage. So I think there's a lot of truth to that. What I would ask you though, mate, look, we can chew over the veracity of Ange's model. It is what it is. I'm not personally I'm not up for the change right now. I've said it since day one. Before I even knew Ange was the guy, I've always said the next guy is not going to be the guy. The guy after the guy will hopefully inherit a team that youth model has kind of matured into some like not just potential, but some absolute quality. And I think it's going to behoove us their experience in this regard and the fact that they've thrown it at the deep end. I think Bergvall has been a breath of fresh air. The Rangers game, I thought he was fantastic in his little cameo. Ever since then, I think he's come on late on in games and has been, he hasn't let me down in any way, shape or form. I think Archie Gray, I've been saying it since the day we were linked with him. I think this guy is a brilliant player. I know that he's going to be a superstar. I know he's going to be a superstar, and he is going to be a superstar. I think Radu Dragusin, people like mistake his experience or they forget his inexperience. And because he looks like he's 35. Same with people like Decky, right? They're 23. Decky's, I think, just turned 24. Pedro Porro just turned 23, 24. We've got so much in the way of inexperience, but yet potential that are maturing into that right vibe. That I genuinely think the next guy that's going to inherit this team it's going to be the team that can take us forward if they dial it back. That says I'm not ready for a new manager right now. I'm just not. I don't watch DS Sports or the Arsenal TV crew very often, but there's a Tottenham lady, I forget her name. There's a woman who represents Tottenham on that DS Sports team, and she got pelters on after the game from the people that were, rightly or wrongly saying that Ange is just a lunatic and that it's inexcusable to expect anything other than failure when you have to participate and put up with that stuff. Nice little shift in your back screen there. I see it. Don't worry, I'm watching. But I actually subscribe to her thought processes. I don't know what else you want. I don't know what, he is who he is. He is what most people wanted. I certainly wanted something like this, a regression back to the old norm, the old mean of what Tottenham were. And we've got that in him. It's going to work sometimes. It isn't others. I think that there's problems. I agree with you on the coaching staff. I agree with you on the lack of frequency of adapting and acknowledging that there are some vulnerabilities. I also think that this kind of notion of the message is more important than the isolated analysis. that story runs dry when isolation becomes a trend. There's lots of reasons to understand why people feel differently to how I feel. I totally get it. Unfortunately, for me, as someone that is always trying to think about how do I present balance when I'm doing my monologues, well, I have to think about this side, I have to think about the other, and in so doing, you sometimes end up with paralysis through analysis, which is a term which is often used in the financial industry, where you overthink the reasons why this company can continue to go up in share price or it can fall back. Paralysis through analysis is a problem. And I think that's kind of where I find myself with Tottenham, which is I get both sides of every argument, whether it's Levy, whether it's a new owner, whether it's Sir Jim Ratcliffe, whether it's a private equity company, whether it's Ange, where do you go for? Are you going to be able to to convince someone that's an absolute winner to come in? Well, we've had those people in the past in Mourinho and Conte, but they weren't quite the right fit. And I got bored of their version of football as well. And Tottenham are in that weird little ecosystem where we're not a small team that's trying to come up and knock on the door, but you're also not quite established and you don't have the historical track record to lean into, that kind of winner's mindset. It's a very difficult square to circle. It's a jigsaw puzzle that has thousands of moving parts. For me, I lean into the way that lady, I forget her name, that lady would kind of articulate, I'm on board, Ange. I want him to figure it out. I would love him to be a little bit more pragmatic, Johnny. He's not going to be that. So you're either on board or not. I always say it's never black or white. It's always a shade of grey. It is. You're either black or you're white in that regard. How do you feel?
But Sean, what I'm trying to say here is this is what I'm asking for. I'm not asking him to do a 180. I'm asking him, look at yourself in the mirror. Look, how many times have I look at my life, right?
Be a very big bloody mirror for me, mate. Very big mirror.
I look at myself in the mirror at times, in my life, and I'm saying, you know what, this is wrong, right? You got to accept that this is wrong, right? When I've been in business, I think, maybe I was wrong. I got to go down a slightly different path, and I tweak it, right, and admit. If I'm going to bury my head in the sand and everyone's telling me, or I'm hearing that maybe it's not the way to go, and I just stick my head in the sand and watch as things get progressively worse, and I don't acknowledge them, then I'm a fool. And I just think that he needs to acknowledge some of the buck stops with Ange. He's the main man. What I'm asking you is, at what stage, because I want him to succeed, but at what stage, how much further does this how much longer does this have to carry on? Should it carry on before you turn around and you say, you know what, Ange, it's enough. Look, we've lost 15 games this in 20.
Johnny, what I would say is that, mate. What I would say is that I hear you. 15 games. I know it's a lot. 2024 has been a terrible year, probably one of the least profitable year in terms of points for any manager for a long time.
Shit show Chelsea, who have been down in the dump, that everyone's been taking the piss out of, have lost 5.
Okay, but I would say the same thing to people that want Ange out as I would to those who want Levy out. Don't bring me a problem. This guy Simon, your man, right? Simon, your man. I know. I like Simon. I think he's really good. I spent some time with him in the last one on Spurs. And I think his last point that he made the other day when I was on that channel. Shout out to Ricky for putting on a great show as always over at Last Word on Spurs. Get over and subscribe. Simon, your man, said that the Levy out movement, it's a movement against something, and if you want change, it has to be a movement towards something, right? And he said that the change for Tottenham movement is a movement towards something different. Whereas the Levy out movement is a movement against what we have. And it was the way he said it, I will never be able to replicate it because I can't think of his words specifically, but he summarized it really well. And I thought he summarized it really well. And I thought it was, look, I said the same thing about Ange, right? If you're anti-Ange right now, where we are, don't bring me a problem. If you think Ange is a problem, I don't subscribe to it. I don't. I'm on board, Ange. I want to see this one play out. At this stage, I don't really see what you're going to change anyway. Moving things in the middle of the season isn't going to solve anything. Where do you go next? I don't know. Like, as I said, if you look down and you look towards a Bournemouth, if you look towards a Fulham, Marco Silva, Iriola, if you look outside, the Premier League, are you really going to convince someone to come in? I would say if you want to bring me a solution, I'm all ears. Johnny, bringing me that Ange isn't the right guy, that's a problem. Bring me the solution. Who is the right guy? How do we go? Where do we move from here? Because I haven't heard it. And if you're telling me that Ariola's the guy, then why is it that he's any different to Nuno? And those people that are now like revisioning the way they felt, I see people in the comments saying Nuno was treated differently. He was unfair. Blah 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 blah. I joined the Tottenham community just as Conte. I joined the Tottenham online community just as Conte joined, but I was watching when Nuno came in, and there wasn't a single person that was on board Nuno. There was nobody from memory that I see these names. They're still around now. That now are saying Nuno was done dirty. You weren't saying that at the time. There was the reason he was sacked after 10 games. We were second after 4 games, 5 games, whatever it was, right? So the shift towards the anti-Nuno movement was very quick. It was as soon as we didn't maintain that position, everyone wasn't interested in him. If you don't want Ange, what do you want? Don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution, and I'll hear it out. Johnny, that wasn't about you specifically, but you specifically. If not Ange, then who?
Look, I'm a Spurs fan all my life. I went to live up in Scotland for a while, not as a punishment. I went there for business, and I needed a team to support, and I was fortunate to meet a Rangers player who I became very friendly with, and I went and supported Rangers. And so when I moved back down to London, it was always Spurs, but I always looked out for Rangers. Let me tell you, in all the time that Rangers played Celtic and Celtic smashed Rangers while Ange was in charge, I never once thought to myself, what a coach. He's the guy for me. He's the guy I must have. He wasn't even in my top 10, Sean. It was Slot. It was Gallardo. It was Amorim. It was Nagelsmann. Those were my 4 in that order. Okay. And if you ask me now,
Marcelo Gallardo, the guy who's never managed a Premier League minute or a European minute, he's an Argentinian superstar.
Yeah. I just, listen, I love the way he played football. I love the way he changed things up constantly.
Yeah, his story is incredible over there. But
no, I understand it was a risk, but having watched Conte ball, I wanted a progressive coach who had
who else was on your list? Sorry, it was Gallardo. It was
number 1 was Slot. Gallardo was 2. Amorim was 3. Nagelsmann was 4. Okay.
Right.
And now if I'm looking at it, I understand, I'd rather have Gareth from Southgate than Gareth Southgate. I don't want Harry Potter because he's magic wand, right? And,
my name is Gareth from Southgate.
Listen, I totally hear what you're saying. Would Levy even pay, a buyout clause for someone like Iriola or a Frank or a Nagelsmann or whoever, right? Probably not. So I hear the argument. And, do I want Ange to succeed? Yes. Do I think he's going to succeed? No, because he won't change. And my point is, how much longer does Levy... Now, I believe that Levy is giving him more time than he would, because for the first time since he gave Steve Hitchen a whole bundle of cash, once again, he invested in the wrong guy, right? He's given him 300 million to spend on players. And he thinks now that if he pulls the rug on this guy now, he's going to be back to square one. And, it's stick or twist.
Well, where do you go next? Where do you go, Johnny?
This is what I'm saying. It's stick or
Johnny,
twist.
One second. I've cracked through a couple of those Magnums and 1 or 2 of those ciders. I need a wee like you wouldn't believe. I'm going to leave the microphone here.
I've probably got about another quarter of an hour max.
Okay. So you tell... I'm going to be listening, but you tell the audience who exactly it is. If not Ange, then where it is. I'll be back in 30 seconds, okay?
If not Ange. I don't know who else. Listen, who else? I like the guy at Girona. He's quite a good coach. But listen, look, it's very, very difficult. Personally, as I said before, I'd go for Iraola. He does give me Pochettino vibes. He likes to mix things up. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an outstanding squad. Semenya is good. Left back Keita, he's got some decent players, but they're not outstanding. But what he's got a group of players who believe in the manager, who work for each other, and despite being a very small squad, they're getting really good results. You know, they've beaten Arsenal, they've beaten us. I think they beat Man City as well. I don't know who else. You know, I do like Thomas Frank. I think he's underrated. He's got a terrible defence at the moment. I don't think any of those would fit in many teams. But I don't know who you guys out there would want. Should he fail? I just hope he's going to change things up. I just can't. Personally, I can't see it. And as far as the Forest game goes, on the weekend, on Thursday, their defensive transitions, Sean, are so good. You know, he does start. If you remember last season, it was very defense orientated. They had Tewa Iwenu, was it? What was his name? Tewu Iwenu?
Iwobi. No,
Taiwu Awabi or Wubi. I'm not very good on Nigerian names.
What the striker, the big.
Yes. He's taken second fiddle now to
Awonibi. Awonibi. I forget.
Taiwu Awonibi. Yeah, it might be Taiwu Awonibi. Listen, you've got
Awonyi.
Yeah, you've got Yates, who's a nasty piece of work. He reminds me of a Roy Keane. He's always leaving something in. You got the
34-year-old striker now, the guy who went to Newcastle for like half a season. Chris Wood. Like, was he on 10 goals? 10 goals this season already?
He's smashing it in. Listen, James Ward-Prowse, who is a nemesis for us, who always causes us problems, has been coming in off the bench.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Anthony Elanga, right, who has been, you know, it was the second fastest in the Premier League. I don't know if anyone saw his goal against Brentford. It was a superb solo goal. I got Morgan Gibbs-White, who's a lovely player. You got
Did you want him at Tottenham?
Well, I was unsure, depending on how much money. I
was on board him, man. I think he's a quality player. I still think he's a quality player. But you know what? He would never satisfy Tottenham fans. He's another player that's like one of those good but not great. Maybe in the future, maybe not. But he's another Becky, another Brennan Johnson type, where you know people are not satisfied with some Tottenham fans are not satisfied with the idea of a good but not yet great potential young guy, right? And you know, even Ange himself. You know what, Johnny? Let's pivot quickly before I know you got to go in 10.
That was the split. There was a split, right? And I've said this before. I'm going back 2 years now, when I first was on Spaces, and I said that Spurs directive under Fabio and Gabbanini was a two-pronged attack. The recruitment of top 15 to 19-year-olds from across the world to pad out that academy, get rid of the Instagram kids. They got rid of tons and tons of kids. It was uproar. He started filling it with these incredible young talent, 15 to 19-year-olds. We've seen it. We bought Destiny. We bought Pape Matar Sarr. We bought Bergvall. We bought Archie Gray. We bought other players. We bought Lancashire. But the other part of the thing was to recruit players for now, under the age of 25, who were going to go straight into the first team. Since Fabio has left, due to the obvious charges, we have failed. But what I mean by that, Yates is an animal. What I'm saying is he's the guy that comes off the bench or starts in the midfield and leads a few nasty challenges on people. We haven't fulfilled, Sean, the second part, which is acquiring players under Lange who are ready now in that 25 years of age and under group that are going to go straight into that team and affect the first team.
You say that, but Archie Gray was acquired under Lange, whatever how you say his name, right? And he's ready now. I think he's ready now, but he's 18, right?
I'm talking about look. I don't want to do a comparison, but look what Fabio and Gabby brought in, and how they affect and how important they are to this squad. What I'm saying is,
but how many players has Lange brought in that haven't played for Tottenham?
No, I'm not saying they haven't played, but when we have a full strength squad, Bergvall and Gray are not playing, right?
Well, I think they should be. I think Bergvall's been fantastic. I've got nothing but I think that Lucas Bergvall. I was sitting there going, when we signed him, I was like, okay, we signed another 18-year-old, fantastic. We gazumped Barcelona, but was it all just paying lip service to him and his agent to get? I think Bergvall's come in and been absolutely breath of fresh air. I know that he's only playing because of the injuries, but that's the whole point of a squad. When you look at Tottenham's roster and you go, well, hang on a second, you've got Destiny Udogie, who's 21 years old. You've got Archie Gray, who's 18. You've got Bergvall, who's 18. You've got Badu Dragusin, who's 21. You've got Pedro Porro at 23. Jed Spence, who's been absolutely phenomenal. We haven't mentioned him this. And you know what, Johnny, to your credit, and a lot of people give you a hard time for various takes and stuff. And by the way, I am going to give you the chance, if you want to retort to the Hotspur hippie, because what I heard from Hotspur hippie on his most recent diatribe was outrageous. Yeah. And if you want to say your piece, you can. You don't worry about doing it on my channel. I'm more than happy for you to say your piece. But before we get to that, I just think that I think that you look at our back four right now. You look at our back, the squad that we have, and this idea that Lange has failed or he's not the guy. Maybe he's right. Maybe people are right about it. Maybe they're wrong. But in terms of have the youngsters stepped up, I look at the squad and go, I don't hold any of the youngsters responsible for anything that's happening right now. No. Some of the more mature players. I hold Bissouma's form. I know he did okay at the game before last. I hold James Maddison's not been great this season. The people that I look towards and go, where's the leadership? I look at the people that are older and go, your efforts are not good enough. But there's not 1 ounce of criticism that I'm going to throw anywhere near Archie Gray, nor Jed Spence. Badu Dragusin, I think, is a little bit like he's an enigma because he hasn't played very many minutes, but he looks like he's older. He looks like he should have more experience, but he doesn't. It's not his fault that he's dressed like Zorro.
Played in a high line. Listen, Sean, Dragusin came from playing at Genoa on the right side, on the centre of a back three, but they didn't play a high line. He's now playing a high line in a two, right? And often he's being played on the left-hand side. It's exposing him. I just want to clarify this, right? Yeah. I was the one that wanted Archie Gray last January. I'm a big exponent of buying the top. I think what we've done, buying these top kids, I know it's been, people have been in uproar about it. I think it's the way to go. You need a conveyor belt of talent. What I'm saying is where we failed is the acquisition of players who are meant to supplement before the Bergvalls have reached the age of 19, 20, 21 to come into the team. The now players, and that's where we've fallen down. But if you look at Fabio, he's brought in Pape Matar Sarr, he's brought in Destiny, he's brought in Pedro Porro, he's brought in Romero, Vicario. I could go on, but I feel that where we are missing is players. We don't have players, good enough wingers to break the low block when we've got no answers and we're playing horseshoe football. Brennan Johnson cannot beat his man. He's not a player that goes around and beats his man. We don't have a dynamic winger. Hopefully, Heung Min Son too. Will be that player.
I've looked at that Heung Min and spit on that Yang. I've looked at him a dozen times. I always forget his actual.
Very good.
He looks phenomenal. I can't wait to see him. But again, you sit there and go. Same with Bergvall. How much can you learn from the Swedish league? For me, I think Bergvall's come on. I said this before. I was going to put in a little segment that was akin to some of those video things that I used to do back in the day when I was just getting going. And one of them was going to be future facts. And I said my first version of future facts is that Lucas Bergvall is going to be a monster in the air. I saw the very first time I saw him, his ability to read the aerial threat, the aerial trajectory of a ball. He knows how to do that. He's not a big, strong, strapping young lad. He's not like Radu Dragusin, but his ability to read the flight is incredible. He's going to offer us aerial threat, both offensively and defensively. And all I've seen since is more sample size to conflate that argument into positive thoughts. I think that he's great. I don't believe he fouled the United keeper, Bayendir, in the Man United game. But I'd say the same about that Heung Min spit on that Yang. I don't know whether or not he, you just don't know what the transition is.
Low centre of gravity.
He looks good, right? He looks really good.
Low centre of gravity. Look, I was going about Bergvall when he came. I was at the pre-season game at QPR, and I was waxing lyrical about Bergvall. His peripheral vision is absolutely superb. Before he's received that ball, he's scanned the area. He's already scanned the area. He knows where he's going to receive the ball, where he's going to pass the ball, and he's already thought about his run to receive the ball back. Should the pass be? Yeah. He's 6'2". He's 6'2". He's strong, but he's an 18-year-old strong. Mm-hmm. Wait till he's a 21-year-old, 6'2" kid. Right. The one thing
maybe more than that, maybe 6'4" by then, right? You don't know.
Well, no, I think he's around 6'2". Jed Spence is a very strong and powerful.
By the way, mate, plaudits to you on that one. Everybody was assuming this. Yeah. Listen, I want to shift it. I know you've got to go in a few minutes, mate. Yeah. And so we're going to round this off in a little while. We could talk for hours, as you know, me and you can always, right? But there's a couple of things I want to cover. One is the slander that was thrown your direction from Hotspur. Listen, you can take this one and let me finish it. If you don't want to talk, it's fine. But listen, I like the guy. I like Hotspur Hippie. I think he's a funny guy. I like his content. I'll always dial in and check it out. And I think he's funny. I think I don't have any problem with him on a personal level. I 100% find it problematic that he is the Hotspur Hippie. He rounds off his channel with peace and love, but the 5 seconds before that, he's calling everyone a prick. And you're a prick, he's a prick, such and such is a prick. I'm also torn a little bit because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and he hates certain people that I obviously have a problem with. So like, there's part of me is like, I listen and dial into his stuff, but what he said about you is outrageous, and I think you have every right to go to have your say on it, which I'll hand over to you in a second on that one if you want to. If you don't want to, it's fine. With regards the Jed Spence thing, just quickly, most people, myself included, dialed into this notion that we believed what we were told, that this guy has got an attitude problem, that when he first came into the club and Antonio Conte went, he's a club signing, he's not a my signing, he's not a bad player, he's a club player. And everyone was like, oh, okay, there's obviously an attitude issue there. And we didn't hear anything. It wasn't like Radu Dragusin where his agent was like, why isn't he playing? He's going to look elsewhere. None of that stuff from his agent. Nothing from Jed Spence. The only evidence that we had to go on that this guy had an attitude problem was a couple of bullshit Instagram posts after he beat Arsenal, I think playing for Middlesbrough in the FA Cup or whatever it was. This geezer's had to wait 2.5 years for his chance to shine in the Premier League. And he's come in and has smashed it out of the park. And I'm absolutely in awe of the confidence of that guy and also the patience of that guy to hang around, to wait for his chance, to never react to any of the bullshit that's been said about him. And then when he's got his chance, he's taken it with both hands and it's been sensational. And anyone, myself included, who bought into this idea that the reason he's not playing is there must be some truth to this notion that he's a bad guy, a bad apple. Clearly, that's not the case, because if it was the case, him or his agent or somebody would have made out more of a big deal out of it. He's been phenomenal and patient, and he's come in and waited so long for his chance and has grabbed it. And fair play to you, Johnny, for always sticking by your boy, because you were right. And anyone that jumped the gun, a lesson to you to not believe what you have heard, a lesson to me to not believe what we've heard, and wait until you judge what you can see for yourself. Don't listen or believe what people tell you, because it's all hearsay, until you see for yourself relax and wait, let it play out. And I've learned that lesson, and I hope everyone else has as well, because Jed Spence has been fantastic. And Johnny, you've always stood by your boy, and well done to you, my man. Well done to you. What do you want to say about Jed?
Yeah, no, what was interesting actually was, so I'm in a privileged position, as you know, because I know his agent, right? So, but there's things that obviously I don't discuss. But what I would say was quite interesting when people were spreading this, he's not playing because he's toxic, he's this, that, and the other. Interesting one was against Bournemouth, when the fan was abusing Ange. The only player to come across and put his arm around Ange and say, "Don't worry, had his back," was Jed Spence. And
exactly, mate. Such an amazing insight, and shouldn't be understated, because that wasn't mentioned anywhere else. Well done again, Johnny. Well done.
So, but what I would say is, there was a lot of worry on his part that he was going to be played at left back. And, he'd only had a few minutes to show what he could do at right back. Even when he played, he wanted to stay at the club. Ange said he wanted him. Then he drops him out of the Europa League squad. It was a real kick in the teeth. Then he was told, he's going to play in the cup games. Then he gets dropped for the first cup game against Coventry in favour of Archie Gray playing at right back. He only came onto that into that game when Destiny had a knock and an injury, and he was forced to play left back. He got us back in that game, otherwise we wouldn't have been in the cup. And then he didn't see another game until another injury from Destiny on the left-hand side against Manchester United, and didn't play again. And when you're sitting there and the coach is saying there is no option to rotate because I don't have the players. For me, that was hard to swallow. So I think, the worry for him was, going over to the left-hand side and not being able to be the player and the marauding menace he can be when he's running down that right. I think, in the game that he played on the left-hand side against Manchester United, was it Man United? Oh, sorry, I'm trying to think now. I've lost track of time. It was Man United, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the assist he got for Solanke, and, how he did against Salah for a large proportion of that game. But,
Salah scored 2 and got an assist or whatever. But again,
I mean, I thought Archie Gray and Salah, Archie Gray and Jed Spence was superb in a game we lost 6-3. I mean, that's
unbelievable. I look at Jed Spence and go, you know what? I've been talking about this for ages, Johnny. And I'm going to come back to you, so I'm going to round this off because I'm talking too much anyway, like I always do. I'm sorry, but I feel like I've been saying for ages. How do you square right now? I always ask guys in the comments. Let me know in the posts in the comments after the section if you're watching this, or in any of the videos I do. How do you rub up against the kind of the dichotomy of what you want to do in the transfer window? Do you hope that Tottenham fulfill whatever ambitions they had at the end of the summer that they couldn't fulfill then? Do you have to kind of like paper over the cracks with players now that may or may not be, the right thing in 6 months' time, but that you have to figure out now? And how do you do that with loan deals? They're expensive. Do you sign players that you don't really want? All that sort of stuff, right? Yeah, exactly, right. So how do you do all that stuff? It's always difficult. But one of the areas where I think you don't have to worry so much right now, because of Jed Spence and because of Archie Gray, is that fullback situation. Right? Destiny Udogie doesn't have any competition, but now he does. And if I'm entirely honest, based on this season's effort, when Destiny Udogie's back fit again, and hopefully he is for the Forest game, I would say thank God we have Jed Spence, because Pedro Porro can finally get some breather. Because Porro's not through any fault of his own, but he's absolutely shattered, and his performances are obviously, incumbent by that exhaustion. So you stick Jed Spence on the right, and you give Destiny a chance, and we should be okay, right? And that maybe helps us with the enigma of, what do you do in the window? Do you spend some money on a left back or a right back? I don't think we need to. I think we can focus on getting something else done.
Well, you need what I would say is when we play Forest, I got slaughtered the other day when I said we should take off Sonny and put on Timo Werner. And that was only not because I think Timo Werner is the answer to anything, but I just thought with his pace, it will give Liverpool some calls. It was
good when he came on.
Yeah, but it gives them cause for concern with the pace, because Sonny wasn't beating anybody. And I think with Anthony Elanga his pace, and Aina on the wing coming up from the back. I think we need the pace of Jed Spence and Destiny on those flanks to offset it, and maybe Timo instead of Sonny. Whether or not he will do that, he'd be brave enough to do that, I'm not so sure. But listen, it's a tough game. It's a tough game against Forest, and you know, if we can go there and get a result, it'll be a real confidence booster to maybe be the catalyst to change it and put us on a winning run that we really, really need right now. We need some positivity around the club to take us into 2025.
Yeah, we do, mate. And listen, we haven't had enough time to really get into the Nottingham Forest game, mate. I don't know if you're around. Listen, it's Christmas Day tomorrow. I know you maybe don't support. Maybe you're not a Christmas Day kind of guy because of your religion and stuff. But,
on Christmas Day, I do the lot. I do Hanukkah, I do Christmas.
Do it all. Okay.
I haven't done Ramadan, but I do everything else. Listen,
listen. I mean, maybe I'll squeeze out a. Listen, I don't know how many people will want to watch it, but if there is any
Forest, well, we can do. Listen, let's do 5 minutes Forest. Okay, let's do 5 minutes of Forest. But
before we do that, John, it's just to round it off. Like, listen, you're my boy. I love you to pieces. I love you. You're a part of this channel. You're like an absolute ever-present part of the furniture of this channel. And me and you are going to be working together in the new year once I get my shenanigans fixed on a new channel where we're going to start. So you don't have the ability to necessarily easily retort to people. If you want to, if you don't want to, I'm happy for just to move on.
Well, listen, if you want to say your piece,
because Hotspur Hippie was pretty accusatory and nasty towards you. Yeah, if you want to say your piece back, you're more than welcome to.
I just think that for a guy who I don't have a conversation with, who I've never had a conversation with, to say the things that were levelled at me were way over the top and totally unnecessary. And I'm opinionated. I don't expect anyone or everyone to agree with me, nor should they, about football. That's what makes it the game we all love. But for someone to get personal through no interaction with this individual, just to pick me out of random of all the hundreds of people on social about my involvement, going to the Levy Out demo, and accusing me of being a racist and other outrageous things. I would say to you, Hippie, I'm not going to get into the bear pit with you and give you that. I would just say, if you could, just drop me out of your toxic vitriol, please. I don't want any part of it. So wish you well. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year down under, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone from Australia and from America and South Korea and Basildon,
Bas Vegas,
and Vegas, and anywhere else you may be hiding out. But no, that's all I've really got to say on the matter, Sean.
Fair enough.
And just to say, Hippie, you upset many people in my family, including my sons, for some of the comments that you made. So I hope you're happy with yourself, mate.
Yeah, look, Paul, you are always welcome on this channel. I like you generally, mate. I like you. I think I've said to you 1,000 times. I think you're a funny guy, but when you position yourself as the peace and love guy, but you finish your shows with saying peace and love to everyone, but for 5 words out of your mouth before that are such and such as a prick. I think it's distasteful, and it goes everything against what you are supposed to be about. If you want to come on and debate the topic, you're always welcome. I don't have your number anymore because I've lost shenanigans. I've lost everyone's number. And by the way, for what it's worth, anyone who wants to come on this channel, anyone at all, even Stelios, if you want to come on, bro, and you want to have that long-awaited debate, I'm open-minded to it. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. As I said to you, as I said to everybody, this channel is an open forum, and I'm happy to have you on. Happy to have anybody on who wants to debate anything at all. But ad hominem attacks are never the way forward. If you want us to move forward as a fan base, then participate in that with everything you do and say in the bigger picture. And we are all supposed to be moving towards the right position for Tottenham. and slagging people off and saying things that are politically inclined are not the way to do that. This is a football forum that we all try to work in, and trying to throw mud at people.
With the same goal, a winning football team.
We all have the same goal. We all want the same thing. Johnny, we're going to round off, my man. Anything you need to plug? Anything you want to get?
No, nothing to plug. I just, listen. Look, this is a very good Forest team. I like to actually also mention Anderson, who's been outstanding for Forest as well. I really like this team. I really do. Murillo, what a player! I mean, he's 22 years of age. I think he's 21, maybe 22 now. Sells the goalkeeper. What a keeper he is! Yeah, and you want to talk about finding a keeper? Yeah, he made some fantastic saves. I'm hopeful we can buy a backup keeper as good as that. I think we might go for Trafford. I just don't want some temporary wait. Listen, I made a lot of fun of the tree, and the tree made me eat my words, just deservedly so. But unfortunately, the tree, whilst he's been solid as oak for 5 or 6 games, we found a bit of rot at the bottom, and he's kicking. He's kicking now. I think it's undue pressure playing Ange ball, playing out from the back. It doesn't really suit his game. Yeah. But without him, we would be in an even bigger mess than we are currently in. So big up to the tree. I hope we go to Forest and we get a result. For me, I would take a draw and a win against Wolves and go into the new year with 4 points. I don't think there'd be anything wrong in that, where we are currently with our form and their form. And I think it'll put us on a good footing to go into the new year and the FA Cup and the games against Arsenal and the rest. You don't care.
Big up to that man, by the way, Phil P. He is the great connector, this man. A great guy. And you know what? He's been promising me a hug. And I got that. I finally got that one. This guy's hug, it means the world. He gave me a hug that he's been promising me a hug and a cider. I never got the cider, but the hug was worth its weight in gold. He's a sensational hugger. Shout out to you, Phil. Shout out
to you, Johnny. Lovely to meet your dad. Lovely to meet your dad.
Your dad's a great guy as well. Yeah, lovely fella.
But listen, thanks to everybody. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and hit the comments in the comment section. And as you know, the likes and the comments and help the algorithm and help Sean's channel grow back to if you double check you're still subscribed, because since I've come back to it, I don't know, 7,000-8,000 people have rejoined, but then 600 people keep getting kicked off. I'm sure shenanigans are a part of that story, but that's fine. It is what it is. So make sure you're subscribed. Johnny, we're going to be doing a lot more in the new year. Yeah. To everyone that wants to know, we're going to start our own channel once the shenanigans are put to one side. I'm going to be employing some top-notch webs infosec people that are going to protect the channel and protect everything going forward. And like I say, even to you, Mr. Stelios Tritios, listen, you want to come on? You want to come on and we'll have that debate that you've been calling me out for, the absence of having. I'm happy to have it, man. And happy to have it with anyone on the Levy outside. And listen, Paul Hotspur Hippie, go easy, bro, on the politics. It's not necessary. It's not needed. And also, Johnny's a fucking lovely fella. And there's no need to throw people under the bus for things that you just agree with them on politically. As I said to you, man, I've said this to you, I think, on text message as well. Like, you might be someone who harbors disdain towards certain political efforts, but there's a lot of people that could feel the opposite, but don't go after you for the same vibe. So relax on that stuff, my man. Relax, everyone. It's only Tottenham. It's just football. That's all it is. It's not the end of the world. And guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, happy whatever other festivals are going on right now. Shout out to the Aboriginals as well over in Australia, if that's a lacking element that needs to be called out. Shout out to everybody. Go be with your family. Go get drunk. Go fill your fucking guts with mince pies and everything else. And we'll see you on Christmas. I'm going to see you tomorrow on Christmas Day. How about that? I'm going to find some time to spend some time with you if you want to. Listen, just hope we don't get a turkey stuffing or a Christmas stuffing on Boxing Day, because I don't think the fan base could handle it right now. We're already melted. We need defrosting and cheering up. So thanks to everyone who's been watching. Hope we didn't bore you too much with our chatter, and we look forward to doing another one of these really soon. And Sean,
real quick, just before we go, Johnny, I love you, man. Let me just get through. There's a couple of super chats that I have to.
Let's go.
Moondog says, "Merry Christmas." Thank you, Moondog. Love 30 months of support, mate. What an absolute legend you are, my man. What an absolute legend. Tom Martin, member for 11 months. Merry Christmas, Sean, Johnny, and watching. Come on, you Spurs. Merry Christmas to you as well, Tom. Thank you for your support. Caribbean Spurs says, "Merry Christmas, everyone." Thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate you, and the same to you. Thank you for the super chat. And also El Dante, member for 7 months. Have a great Christmas, one and all. That's how we like to end it here. Well wishes, and not necessarily religiously inclined, but wherever you are celebrating, whatever you're doing, make sure you're having fun and keep it friendly, keep it phenomenal, keep it Tottenham. Love, like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, Johnny,
leave you out. Look, Angie's there cooking a Christmas treat.
Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.
See you
Happy
later.
Christmas. Bye-bye.